So I'm making my round today and I'm taking pails off the hives. We're going to start stripping all the pails off and bringing them back to the honey yard. About a third of these hives still have syrup left in them. There's like, oh, not a lot, about a quarter to a third of a pail. So what I'm going to do is any hive that has syrup left on top of them yet, I'm not going to leave the pail up there. I'm going to strip the pails and anything with syrup gets dumped into the open feeder. And then all the empty pails get brought back to the honey house to be cleaned up and put away for storage. The reason why I'm doing that is we're supposed to be getting some mild weather coming this week. It's kind of hard to think about that on a day like today. But apparently we're supposed to get some nice weather coming through, double-digit weather, and on especially Thursday, seems like it's going to be like 14 or 15 degrees, which is going to be really nice. And hopefully that warm spirit continues on a little bit longer. So these bees have been confined for 2-3 weeks now already. And if they get some nice weather like that, they'll get out and fly and they'll start naturally looking for stuff. And what I'm thinking is if they get out, they'll be looking for food, and they'll find those syrup feeders because they know they're there, and hopefully they'll take advantage of this nice weather and take down that last little bit of syrup, which would be good because some of these hives need a little bit more weight put on before they go into winter. So we're going to be aggressive this week. We're going to set out at least one tote for every yard just to make sure that they have access to some syrup. I don't want to get too carried away, just in case these weather forecasters are wrong and we don't get the mild weather that's supposed to come through. But we have to put some food out for them, and we have to get more weight onto these colonies. It's hard for me to believe that this is the last opportunity we have, but we just don't know. So we got to act aggressively at this. We have to prepare these hives the best we can. So we'll be going around this week, stripping the pails off and capping the hives, and setting out a little bit open feed before those mild days, and we'll have to see what happens here. We could get an Indian summer come. This has happened before. We get a really cold October, and then as we drift into November, it becomes real mild and pleasant. And if that's the case, we're going to be on top of that. We're going to get these guys fed up. And not only this, the farm's going to get the rest of our harvest done, our land work done. We've got a pile of stuff we have to do. Cattle facility maintenance. There's just a pile of work we got to do yet. This weather is really kind of throwing our farm on its head a little bit. But, you know, back in August, these bees have almost predicted this weather perfectly. I don't know, I keep resting on the fact that it's all coincidence, but they lined themselves up, they measured themselves up to suit this type of weather precisely. They quit brooding end of August. I went into September. By the Labor Day weekend, first week of September, my hives were hatched out. These girls are ready to backfill and prepare themselves for winter. And it just fit the weather patterns absolutely perfectly. I don't know, I'm assuming that it was more so to do with the lack of actual available resource for them to continue on the brood nest. Although I had supplement on there was pollen coming in. We had syrup. They were not starved for resource. We had everything we could give them. They just did not want to progress. And you can kind of see in this type of weather be extremely challenging to manage a brood nest right about now. So I hope they know what they're doing, because they have a long winter ahead of them. And if my math tells me right, it's the brood that emerges in September that are the winter bees that make it to the following spring. And that's assuming that there isn't any brood rearing throughout the winter shed. There's a lot of debate about that. There is brood rearing in that shed. Just some years it's more than others. So this year I hope although these guys have very little resource in their hives to be able to actually brood rear in the winter shade if they wanted to. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But at the same time, maybe, you know, Mother Nature might cooperate here and, you know, throw me a bone. Maybe she'll let us out in March, early March, and get these hives going, and we can flip that nest into spring before April. And if that's the case, then my apiary is going to be fine. But if we drag into another long winter that takes us well into April, like last spring, I have concerns about the viability of these hives here in my apiary. So there's nothing I can do about it except for prepare the hives, prepare their nests the best I can, and just let things happen. That's the worst thing about this business, is we have virtually absolutely no control about anything that's going on here. All we can do is just help stack the deck a little bit. We can just help promote a better nest, promote better nutrition to develop that nest, control a disease, and just, you know, and then everything else around us that influences onto these colonies dictates what goes on within our nests, and we just have to pretty much hang on for the ride. So the kids are sure excited about this snow. But I'm already getting tired of it. Hopefully we don't get too much drop on us here, and maybe I'll just crank the heat in the truck and put on warmer mitts.